everybody? It's your boy E Double,
What up? It's your boy Ghost.
What up, Miss? BC.
and you're watching Disney Channel.
Yeah, boy.
All right, yeah, it's been a while since I posted Afro stories, and we got this nice Zen
Afro
Garden
man.
video playing in the background. Shout out to whoever the hell posted this, and I wanna do a couple of things, and we got all the members of HomeBoiz here. It's another little story time moment, you know. Basically, I want to explain all the stuff that's been going on recently, both just for the sake of storytelling, because it's kind of crazy, but also as an explanation for why we haven't really been posting. Basically, it was a little bit before Christmas where I was at work, right? I actually work at a restaurant over at Warner Brothers, right? And so I'm one of the cooks there, and we were taking out the trash, but we only have like one dumpster, and it was full. So what me and the head cook do is we hop up on top of it and we stomp it all down so we can make some room, right? Makes sense. But somebody was too lazy to wash something and put it up with all the other dishes, so somebody threw away a whole ass knife. Well, I'm like squashing down the trash and I like stomp down on a knife just as hard as I can, man. It was all bad. I'm like, I yell for a quick second and then I like check my shoe, and thankfully my coworker was there with me, so he was able to run and find the manager. But like I just checked my shoe and I'm like bleeding. Like I try to hop down, and as soon as my foot touches the ground, you just see a whole ass puddle already. Like my foot is leaking at this point.
Hell.
It was all types of bad. It was immediately really numb. We're trying to make our way back into the kitchen because we're outside to throw the trash. But I was like, yo, if I'm losing a lot of blood, I'm going to just stay still. So I'm standing there, and I'll put up photos for you guys because I managed to take a couple of photos here and there. I'm like, yo, this will be a good YouTube video.
Okay.
And just, just me standing there for like 5 minutes or whatever, like there was a whole ass puddle underneath my foot, and it was just rolling down the whole parking lot. So I was losing all types of blood, and the manager shows up and she's freaking out, so she has to take me to the emergency room, so she goes to get her car, right? And so she pulls up with her car and she's busy panicking and locks her keys in the ignition.
Dumb bitch.
That's what I said. So she has to call one of the other managers, who all of them are home at this point, and she has to wake one of them up, and one of them finally responds. And so that lady has to come all the way from her house to come take me to the hospital, right? Meanwhile, I also got these guys in the kitchen to get me like 2 whole plastic bags and a really thick rag. So I was using the rag to, plus like me standing on the ground, to try and apply some pressure, and the rag was going to soak up the blood. So I'm over there waiting by the manager's car while we're waiting for the other manager to show up. And funny enough, the security guard comes out of nowhere. We never see the security guard for the building, but he happened to come out at this moment, and he looks down. It's like literally midnight. He sees a whole trail of blood, a bunch of dudes standing around, and me in my all black uniform standing next to a black SUV. Sus as fuck. This happened at like right before 11 p.m. and it's 2 p.m. when they finally put the stitches in. I'm like, yo, I'm bleeding out, and they're like, yeah, you gotta wait your turn, bro.
Racism.
So I got stitches and I was struggling to walk for a bit. I had to use crutches and like this little black boot thing. I'll see if there's a photo for it somewhere. But I had to use crutches and this boot to walk for 8 days. And for 8 straight days, I was basically still walking on my tiptoe because the knife went through the bottom of my foot. So I wasn't able to walk properly. And even now, like now I'm finally, it's been 12 or 13 days. And I'm finally walking in normal shoes, but I'm still kind of walking a little bit funny sometimes, so it kind of hurts, kind of whatever. But that's not even the end of the drama, right? The doctors went ahead and cleared me to go ahead and work still. So this entire time, I've still been going to work, and I live in Los Angeles, but I work in Burbank. If you don't have a car, it takes you an hour to get to Burbank, because you gotta catch a train and a bus. So I'm doing that shit, and I'm getting my work done, and there's all types of illegal activity going on all of a sudden, right? While I'm with the crutches and everything, I'm only supposed to be working while I'm sitting down. And, you know, you're not supposed to be, like, sent home early or anything. There's all types of, like, restrictions and whatever. And there's special rules that your work is supposed to play by so that nobody gets in trouble and that you're treated fairly, basically. But what the kitchen manager does, he goes ahead and he's like, hey man, when the restaurant closes, you're not staying anymore. You have to go home. Like, he's telling me you have to leave. And so I go ahead and leave. Apparently you're not allowed to do that though. So what he was doing was
What?
he was making excuses so that I would go home 2 whole ass hours early so that they wouldn't have to pay me. He did that 2 days in a row. Because for those first 2 nights where I came back to work, he was the only manager there, so he was the one in charge. And he kept sending me home early, so I lost a couple of hours of work. Then, fast forward, right? A couple of days, and my paycheck finally comes, and you have to sign this paper and everything saying like, yeah, everything's cool with my paycheck. And the dude gives me my check, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna sign this shit. And he's like, oh, what's the problem? How come you're refusing to sign it? You can't do that. I was like, because you fucking, like, stole my hours. The other managers had to come and tell me he cannot be doing that. That's against the law and shit. Like, even the major company that we work for, they called me and said, hey, just so you know, call us at this number, because if they send you home early, then they can get in a lot of trouble. So,
Damn.
yeah.
That's tough.
So he cost me 4 hours in 2 days because he was too cheap to pay me for the time I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to be there from like 5:30 to 11, and he sent me home at 8:30. So I only got 3 hours instead of like 5 or 6. I like crunched the numbers and everything for proof and shit. I got all my schedules listed, and their computers have proof of like my hours and everything. But the other thing though, not only was I missing those like 4 or 5 hours, I was missing another 20 hours. Cause I work maybe 60 hours and our paycheck comes in 2 weeks, right? 60 hours in 2 weeks, roughly. But my paycheck said I only worked 30 hours? Like 38 or something? And so
Damn,
apparently what happened was they didn't pay me for the day that I got injured. Because you have that full time, right? And you're not supposed to clock out when the injury happened. And the machine doesn't automatically clock you out until 3 in the morning. So I had 11 hours on the day that I got injured with no meal break, meaning that some of the pay is supposed to be double my usual pay rate. And they didn't give me
Bruh.
a dime for those 11 hours with no food.
They're trying to finesse you.
Yeah. So I was like, that shit is missing. So that's hella money that you guys are stealing from me. The next day after the injury, I had to go file paperwork for the workers' compensation. And the manager who was there said, hey, you have to clock in and don't clock out. They didn't pay me for that day either. That's 9 hours I lost. So that's 20 hours that they stole from me and never paid.
Damn. They stingy.
Yeah, bro. They got you working for free out here.
So,
That's tough.
yeah. It's,
For real.
so my paycheck was at least $100 shorter than usual. And I'm not going to talk about how much I get paid because none of you guys need to know about that and none of you cared. But that's a lot of money, man, to be missing.
Facts.
I get paid every 2 weeks, and I'm missing $100 at least. So I was like, fuck no. I filed the paperwork and everything, and I sent it over to the company. And this morning, actually, the human resources person called me, and he was like checking the details, and they opened an investigation to figure out why that asshole sent me home early and why I'm missing so many hours. So that's still not the end of the drama, right? That's literally only the first 2 days. So the day I was filing the paperwork, my dad showed up to the damn restaurant because what had happened was when I was in the emergency room, the manager who was there that night came to visit me, right? But she was actually coming for something else, right? She wasn't really coming to visit me. Somebody shows up when something like this happens to give you a paper with a special phone number to call. And you read all of it. It's like giving you all of your rights or something along those lines for workers' compensation. And she's like, they tell you call this number immediately. The manager shows up and steals the paper when she's holding my stuff when I wasn't looking.
Wow.
So when I finally get, and then you get the doctor, right, who gave me the stitches. You get to the doctor who gave me the stitches, and the first thing she says when the stitches are done, oh, is he coming back to work? And he's like, no, he just got stitches in his foot, lady. A knife went through half of his foot. I'm going to write him a note to say that he's not going to go to work for a whole week. I'm like, okay, that's not so bad. I get to stay home and rest, and I still get half of what my salary was going to be, because that's how workers' compensation works. But then the nurse comes with all my paperwork, right? And the doctor never wrote the note. And when the nurse comes, she asks again, pretending she didn't hear shit. Hey, is he going to work? And he's like, I don't see any note saying he has to stay home, so I guess he has to go to work.
Bruh.
My pops was really pissed about that when I told him about it. Because how the fuck are you going to make me on one leg hop on the train and on the bus an hour up north and work? Like, you can't make me do that shit.
That's fucking fucked up.
Yeah. So my dad had words for her, and she couldn't answer any of his questions, and he's like, this goes against the Fair Labor Act and all this other stuff, and she choked, and she just ended up leaving. I filed my paperwork. I went on about my day, right? So now fast forward to last night. We go to the kitchen manager again, right? The dude who sent me home early when he wasn't supposed to. He pulled some major bullshit because, again, and I'm not supposed to be sent home early or anything, but there are times where it's acceptable, right? Like when there's no work left to be done, the managers are allowed to send the workers home early. So we have like 30 minutes left on the clock, and he's like, hey, the only thing that's left is for the dishwasher. The rest of you go home. And so he tells me to clock out. I go clock out. So I'm waiting in the dining room because one of the employees always drives me home, and especially with my foot still in pain and shit. So I'm there waiting for him, and this guy, and his name is Jose, right? Jose comes out, and he's like, hey, Eric, I need you to do this thing for me. I'm like, I can't. I'm on the clock. And I'm like following him because he's just walking away. He's still talking. He's like, no, you're not. I'm like, what are you talking about? I have the receipt right here saying that I clocked out. He's like, no, you didn't, because I deleted your log of work. So you never clocked out on the computer anymore. It's not there. Now get back to work.
This bitch.
Yeah.
What the hell going on?
That is illegal. He did not have my permission to do that shit.
For real?
I never asked him to do it. He never asked me if it was okay. And
I would have quit on the spot.
You can't put somebody back to work when they clock out.
Right. Should throw hands.
I want to suck on this D.
For real, bro. But I was like, whatever. I'm gonna get him back for this later, right? So
Yeah.
It was only like 10 minutes of work. Like, basically, I found out that the baker didn't do their job, and they didn't put all the stuff away, and the food was gonna go bad. So they almost cost us $200.
Boy.
Yeah.
Why are these workers? God damn.
Really?
So since the baker who was there today or whatever didn't wrap up the food, I wrapped it up. I saved us a bunch of money, right? It only took 10 minutes, then I went and clocked out again. Fuck this dude. Fuck Jose. So now the next day, which is today, we got another issue, and of course, It's because of Jose. So the last
Bro, why
time I
don't they
went to
just
get a
fire
checkup,
him already? Oh.
the next time I went, the last time I went to go to the clinic to get a checkup and everything, I was supposed to get my stitches removed, and the doctor decided it's not time yet. But she did decide that I can stop wearing the boot and put on regular shoes. She said, though, my shoes have to be loose-fitting shoes, and as long as they're not too tight, that way it's not causing even more pain for me, right? And when you work in a kitchen, you're supposed to wear non-slip shoes, but I can't wear my work shoes because it'll hurt a lot. And if your shoe is too tight, you could be squeezing your foot enough for the cut to open back up. And then I have to go back to the emergency room to get stitches again. So I show up to work in my regular shoes. And I started doing that 2 days ago, right? And I let the manager, no, 3 days ago. I let the managers know because both of the like higher up people were there. And I was like, yo, this is the situation. They're like, it's cool. Just be really careful when you walk around, right? Jose does not understand. Yesterday I told him, since he was the only manager there, and they apparently never told him about it. And he's like, okay, cool, that's fine. Hey, can you go do this thing for me where the ground is super wet and slippery? I was like, no, Jose, because I'm going to fall, and I just told you I'm not allowed to wear my work shoes yet. Fucking idiot. So, today, I clock in, and literally as soon as I walk through the door, oh, hey, Eric, where are your work shoes? And I'm like, dude, I told you 3 times yesterday I cannot wear my work shoes, my non-slips, because they're too tight, and the doctor said I have to wear these shoes instead.
Does this dude have a learning disability?
Yeah, for real. He was even the one who was like, oh, man, I'm going to write a note for all the other managers so that they don't have to keep asking you. And then he asked me again. So he's like, oh, okay. So why are you wearing your regular shoes? I was like, I just told you 5 seconds ago. I have to wear these. He's like, why don't you just put on non-slips, though? And I'm like, dude, you're fucking stupid.
You're just retarded.
So eventually he goes into the back. And I'm like, okay, cool. He pissed off. But then I know something's up because he doesn't just go to the back. He goes into the office and starts opening up the cabinets where they keep all the documents of the workers. So I already know he's looking for the paperwork on me. And I'm like, I say what's up to all the cooks and everything. Head chef is about to give me my instructions for the day. And so I go to the back because that's where I go to do my sit-down work. And he's like, Eric, come here. So he pulls up the fucking doctor's note that says that I'm supposed to only stand for 3 hours and everything. And he's like, oh, so since the doctor's note doesn't specifically tell us about your shoe, I can't have you here anymore. And I'm like, dude, I not only told you, but I told your boss, and I told you that I told your boss, and I told you to call the clinic so they could tell you I have to wear these shoes. And he's like, yeah, I know, but the thing is, you're not wearing your work shoes. And I'm like, I know that because I can't, Jose. I am going to bleed and maybe bleed so much that I pass out. Okay? And you're not going to drive me to the hospital. He's like, yeah, but see, I don't want to get in trouble because you didn't bring your work shoes. So now I'm writing you up because I told you to bring them yesterday. I was like, no, the fuck you didn't. No, you did not. You never told me to bring them. You said it was okay and that you were going to let all the other managers know that I couldn't wear my work shoes anymore. So he pulls up the paperwork and I get a write-up, which, if you guys aren't familiar, you basically, it's a paper that says, hey, this is what this employee has been doing wrong. This is unacceptable behavior. If he gets 3 write-ups total, they are automatically fired. And So he writes me up, and even getting one write-up can potentially prevent you from getting any promotions in the future. And I'm like, this is so bullshit. But the whole time, the head chef is there because the head cook always has to be there, or somebody always has to be there to witness it going on, because you also need a signature of a fucking witness. So he writes me up for following the doctor's orders and sends me home. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. Because today, I got the number from Human Resources. Because the guy called me to ask me about all the hours that you robbed me of. And he gave me his number personally.
Damn, get that moolah.
So I'm
Fucking
about...
place.
So in the morning, when the man's office is open, I'm going to go call that guy and let him know, one, he illegally re-clocked me back in. Two, he failed to accommodate for a workers' comp worker. And I'm also calling the company who deals with workers' comp for our restaurant. And I'm calling my lawyer about this, because this is some ass. But on top of all of this, right, every Sunday we get our schedule for that 1 week. And this past Sunday, I get my schedule, and I notice something super off about it, right? You usually get 1 day a week off. You work 6 days, and at some point you do 1 day off. Sometimes you get 2 days off, and they tend to be far apart from each other. Sunday I get the email telling me my schedule. And my schedule says they gave me 3 fucking days off for the whole week. But I never requested time off for this week. So, that means that they are potentially treating me differently for being an injured worker, which in of itself is a lawsuit, not even counting all the stuff that Jose has been doing. So I have 2 potential lawsuits for the restaurant in like 4 days.
Goddamn.
Damn.
And this is all the drama that I've been dealing with between the pain, which the doctors still have never given me pain medicine for, between trying to
Another lawsuit.
trying to not stand up too much, between
Get that
having
move.
to go to work and deal with all this stuff. This is the reason that we have not been posting too much content. So we apologize for not being consistent like we have been trying to do. Swear that we have a lot of stuff that we're editing. Brandon's editing some stuff. My flash drive is in a different city. That's a story all by itself. When I get my flash drive
And
back,
Ivan's
I'll
just
get back to editing.
Nah, man, I'm sick. Wait, I'm up.
But yeah, that's what's been going on, and it's been a really
Feeling
long
better,
time since
thanks.
I did an episode of Afro Stories, so I wanted to do it for you guys and explain to you guys what's going on. And we had all the members of HomeBoiz here, so it was cool, man.
Yep.
Yeah, y'all got anything to say before we close this out?
Subscribe and like this video, please.
Damn,
Check my
Ivan.
Instagram right now.
All right. All right, well,
And pray for me, because I'm still kind of sick.
oh, yeah, that's right. Ivan's been really, really sick, so yeah.
I
But
feel-
Ivan
I
does
feel
have
a
a
lot better,
video
though.
that's going to be going up this week
Ivan always
on
sick.
Thursday. So, look forward to
Oh,
Ivan's
shit.
second ever video on the channel.
Oh, shit.
Why do you say that? Now it sounds like you didn't even know.
Hey.
We're professional over here, man.
Ivan's
Later.
like, wait, hold
Say
up.
that.
I'm doing